It starts in the mountains, it's just a small trickle, a few drops of fresh melted snow. Jumps o'er the boulders, laughing and playing, till it heads for the valley below. Stanislaus River, so wild and so free, I hope for all times that you will be a free-flowing river that man cannot end. I'll remember you always, my friend.
It's hard to find a more beautiful setting in the entire Motherlode area of California. It's a natural canyon. The hills are verdant and green in the springtime. It's an incredibly beautiful area to explore.
The Stanislaus is unique above all other rivers. Today, when we're talking about conserving energy, is within very short driving distance of a great large populace of people. That isn't provided or offered anywhere else. It's not offered on the Rogue or the Grand Canyon or the Upper Colorado or Westwater or the Green or the Deschutes or any of the other rivers.
Well, it's thought by many experts to be a living museum. And it deals with Miwok Indian sites, the gold rush period. It has petroglyphs, things of that nature that are very important to archaeologists and to historians.
The canyon is an outdoor classroom. The learning experiences there are just incredible. You can learn about geology and natural history, and you can also learn about yourself.
In the beginning, God created heavens and the earth. The earth was a formless wasteland, and darkness covered the abyss, while a mighty wind swept over the waters. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image and to our likeness." God blessed them, saying, "Be fertile and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it." Mindful of those words, we well understand the importance of water provided by this great river, the Stanislaus. May your blessing remain upon this new structure, the New Maloney's, now and until the end of time. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
New Malones Lake, flood control, irrigation, power, recreation, fish and wildlife, and water quality control, Stanislaus River, California. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Sacramento District.
Here's a project that got caught right in the middle of a major change in national direction. And only because of tenacity, good hard work, and just the fundamental philosophy that right is right, the project is here today.
New Malones is a classic. Never should have been built. The costs of it are bizarre, and we won't even look at the cost. We're so embarrassed as far as a government.
But our job really here is to give you an engineeringly sound, efficient project which is economically justified, which is environmentally sensitive, and this project is a great tribute to good management.
The New Malones Dam is an economic disaster. It should never have been built. I don't think there's anyone who seriously has looked at this question who hasn't come to that conclusion.
I think what most people have trouble understanding is what a white elephant New Malones Dam is. New Malones Dam is the 14th dam on the Stanislaus River, and it's overkill. We've hit the law of diminishing returns. The last few dams don't give any benefits. We're now paying an amazing amount of money to get a very, very tiny increment of benefits.
The Army Corps promised to Congress that this massive reservoir behind New Malones Dam would provide 326,000 acre-feet each year for new irrigation. In fact, the dam and a massive reservoir will provide a maximum of 200,000 acre-feet and probably only 150,000 acre-feet.
That's less than 1/3 of 1% of all the water that's now used in this state. It's almost immeasurable in comparison to the amount of water that farmers are using. You could forget it, and farmers wouldn't know the difference.
The Corps, in this case, showed a classic example of living in a bubble, kind of tunnel vision. They said, go to the Tuolumne River, not recognizing that another governmental level, meaning the city of San Francisco, was planning a series of dams on that river. Go north to the American River. They didn't realize that the governmental levels in El Dorado County were planning a series of dams there. When you're talking about a business as unique as this one, you don't cross the street and find another river.
Spanning more than a decade, grassroots efforts to save the river canyon have included numerous letter-writing campaigns, a 200,000 signature petition to President Nixon, a lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Court, congressional visits, public hearings, and petition drives. In 1974, 30,000 volunteers collected 500,000 signatures to place an initiative to save the river on the California ballot. Even this ballot initiative would not have prohibited a dam project. Opponents of Proposition 17 outspent Friends of the River 2-1. 67% of their funding came from contractors, oil companies, heavy equipment dealers, and trade associations directly involved with the New Maloney's project.
I think Proposition 17 shows in the modern sense what it is to buy an election, not in the old sense of going out and putting $5 and $10 bills in people's hands. The PR firm and the television blitz that took place during the last weeks of that campaign so confused the public that they didn't know what was environmental and what wasn't. They didn't know who was saving what. The sad fact is the polls taken way before the election and the polls taken right after the election showed that the general public definitely wanted to save that river.
On April 1st, 1979, the Army Corps began storing water behind the dam, with 2 questions still unresolved. The 7-year legal question still pending in federal courts over the right of the state of California to impose conditions on the operation of a federal water project, and a controversy over whether the Army Corps was in full compliance with national historic preservation laws.
Robinson's Ferry, of course, was used by Mark Twain, Bret Hart, and lots of other early California characters, and that's underwater. The Indian petroglyphs along the riverbanks of the Stanislaus are gone. They're underwater. The Carson Hill mine exit, where they pulled all of the gold out of Carson Hill, is also underwater. History is literally being drowned.
A river brings all kinds of different opportunities for different kinds of things to live along its shore, along its edge, where the water is moving. Swallows will be near getting mud, building nests, but swallows along the Stanislaus will never be able to come back to their Capistrano. People can live along a river where the slopes are gradual. They can't live there when the water rises and drowns out the living land that could have sustained the farmer.
The Pendola Ranch has been in the same California family for 125 years. Because it stood in the path of the rising water behind New Maloney's Dam, the Army Corps condemned it, then bulldozed and burned the property before the owners had received a penny in compensation.
I had to get out of here. They give me 90 days to get out of here. And you wonder how I feel? This is my granddaughter. This barn would have been hers someday. You see what I sacrificed? Not that goddamn white water up there. Forget that goddamn white water. We've been here 125 years. Nobody ever fought it for me to save my place. Now all of a sudden they gotta save this and they gotta save this and they save that. They saved this barn for Virgil. They never paid me for this barn. You know who made this country beautiful? My grandfather and us. We kept it beautiful. For years and years and years. We've been saving it for 125 years. This was a gem here. This was the beautiful, most beautiful place in the county. Not that I owned it, but it was. Well, it just tears me all to hell here to see this go down. God damn, and have to come down here and look at this. Jesus Christ almighty. The hell with you. Get out.
For years, Mark Dubois had worked within the system to save the Stanislaus River Canyon. During that time, he had repeatedly seen the Army Corps bulldozers move faster than legal processes. His mounting frustration finally led him to risk his life to prevent further flooding of the canyon.
I had watched too many examples of the integrity of the canyon being chipped away. The Corps was violating historic preservation laws, and they were violating a Supreme Court mandate which told them to cooperate with the State Water Resource Control Board. And while attorneys and other people were trying to force the Corps to do what they were supposed to, I decided that the canyon and our society couldn't afford it anymore, and that I needed to make a personal statement.
Mark's statement was to chain himself to a rock at an unknown location at the edge of the rising water, forcing the Army Corps to either drown him or comply with the law by not flooding the canyon above Parrott's Ferry Bridge. This is Parrott's Ferry Bridge. 16 miles downstream is New Maloney's Dam. Upstream for 9 miles is a limestone river canyon. Why would Mark Dubois risk his life? And why would tens of thousands of citizens volunteer countless hours over more than a decade to preserve this canyon?
It's within a 4-hour driving time of approximately 5 million people. It's used by approximately 100,000 people a year, of which about 39,000 of them what we call whitewater users or floaters. There are other rivers in the United States that have whitewater on them. Most of them have access problems. Most of them are a long distance from population centers. That's why the Stan's probably has the high numbers it does. It's second in the nation as far as what we call whitewater rivers are concerned. In addition to the commercial companies and what we might consider the normal private citizen that uses it, there's many organizations and groups use it. We get recreation districts, park districts that use it. A large number of universities and schools use the river throughout the summer.
Here we can see the chert and mudstone beds have broken up and gave you this kind of pebbly mixture.
The scientific community has not been able to fully study the many valuable caves in the canyon, which contain unidentified prehistoric bones and rare cave-adapted species. The Stanislaus is the only major limestone canyon on the west coast.
Half the use on the Stanislaus River is by commercial outfitters serving the general public. We are probably contributing about $1.5 million annually to communities such as Sonora and Angels Camp, which means for every dollar brought into a community, it gets cycled 3 times through that community. Suddenly that $1.5 million becomes $6 million annually. And to remove those kinds of dollars from such small communities has a significant impact.
Hang on, Jack!
The general public that we take ranges from bankers to Boy Scouts, fathers, sons, mother-daughters, families, and firemen. It's just a wide-ranging public.
Okay, give me a little left turn, a little left. Oh, God! Okay, arch forward. Left turn, left. Whoa!
Was that good or was that not good?
We're here. We did all right.
Etc. It stands for Environmental Traveling Companions, and what we do is provide wilderness trips for people who normally don't get outdoors. They may be inner city kids who are confined to the city, disabled people, blind groups, deaf kids, and we provide a variety of wilderness trips for these people. By doing these things, people learn a lot about themselves. You can swim Whitewater Rapid. You can explore all the beautiful side canyons of the Stanislaus. And a blind person learns that when they can step over rocks on their way to Rose Creek, they come home and walking on a sidewalk isn't so difficult.
Despite the fact that I'm disabled, I was taken out into the wilderness and I found that I could thrive there. To me personally, it is the place where I made great discoveries about myself in terms of my ability to deal with the wilderness by deciding to see if I could run a river in combination with my friend Dennis, who's blind, if we could just get a boat and run this river. And we also discovered a part of the wilderness that I have never been able to get to. The Stanislaus River is the only river that is a place where a disabled person can get in the wilderness. And we feel that It is everyone's right to have wilderness areas accessible to them.
Okay, now pull on the right.
Pull on the left, pull on the left, pull on the left, pull on the left. Oh, push on the left, push on the left, push on the left, push on it, push on it, push on it, push on the right, shift to your right. Okay.
I would argue that present and future generations in our cities should have a say in how we use our rivers. We shouldn't just put up dams because 400 people say we want it. We're a state of 22 million.
I just think this river is so unique and so valuable to not just California, but the whole United States.
Fishing for me is a way of relaxing and getting back to a part of the real world that I miss in today's modern technology.
One of the most memorable events in my life on a river was spent when I was asked to chaperone some blind youngsters down the Stanislaus. But if anyone is going to take away from blind youngsters or any youngster this opportunity to get out and see a swift running stream, it would be just absolutely immoral from my point of view.
I would miss it for the rest of my life. And I don't think, any river could take place of that river.
The best part about the Stanislaus River to me is that it's close to the metropolitan area, and I can get up there and take my friends and my rafts down the river, and we can enjoy a beautiful day on the river, and there's no place else around that you can do that.
Oh, I like camping and rafting and all that. It's fun, especially the hiking part, because it's nice hike and everything. And it's nice.
I think it means even more to me because I'm a historian and because I'm a teacher. And the canyon itself is the most effective teacher I've ever experienced. I feel as though every time I'm in the canyon, I learn and relearn what we all need to know to survive on this planet.
It'd be all right to dam the Stanislaus if they could build a separate but equal Stanislaus somewhere else. They can't. They should value the one we have. And so will those who come after us if we give them a chance, generation after generation. That's what the wild Stanislaus is for.
Of the Stanislaus River, so wild and so free, I hope for all times that you will be a free-flowing river that man cannot end. I'll remember you always, my friend. Of the Stanislaus River, so wild and so free, I hope for all times that you will be a free-flowing river that man cannot end. I'll remember you always, my friend. The Stanislaus River, so wild and so free, I hope for all times that you will be a free-flowing river that man cannot end. I'll remember you always, my friend. I'll remember you always, my friend.